How many layers of irony should we lean into here? As we all know, okay, Russia is the vanguard of anti-imperialist thought. I know this because Russia and America don't like each other. And as a strict orthodox reading of Marxist literature reveals, anything that is anti-America has to be good, which is why I'm so disturbed to see mainstream Western news outlets misframing the situation as our comrades fighting for the Donbass region and their political sovereignty have liberated Europe's largest nuclear power plant. They are engaging in the well-known and totally legitimate tactic of setting up military fortifications at the nuclear power plant and firing from that location. Now, obviously, the likelihood of the likelihood of anything bad happening by using heavy ordnance and explosives around Europe's largest nuclear power plant, minimal threat here. But, you know, the Western media has gone hog wild with their fear and... We'll get the first paragraph here, then. An unstoppable wind of, quote, radioactive contamination. Does radioactive contamination even exist? I don't know if Marx wrote on this, or Lenin. Could spread over Europe if the West does not act to stop Russia's assault on the continent's largest nuclear power plant. Volodymyr Zelensky, the Ukrainian president, has warned. Last weekend's artillery barrages at Zaporizhzhia, please, in Russian-occupied territory in southern Ukraine have sparked international fears of a Chernobyl-style disaster. Ooh. Fighting around the facility, located on the banks of the Dnieper River, have intensified as Ukrainian forces battle to reclaim territories occupied by Russia in the south. Both Moscow and Kiev traded blame for shelling around the power plant, which was captured by Russian fighters in early March. Ukraine state-run, blah, 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 blah. Let's go to an actual article, thank you. Western media, etc., etc. You guys get the framing device. Oh, wait, sorry. This is the next thing that happened. Russia's now openly threatening to bomb a nuclear power plant. There will be either Russian land or scorched desert, a Russian general reportedly said after claiming to have mined the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. Just anti-imperialist things. Don't worry about it, folks. Russia has threatened that it's prepared to blow up Europe's nuclear power plant. I'm just going to call it Zapor. Thank you. Nuclear power plant in Ukraine, and the latest indication that Russia's war in Ukraine could be headed towards a nuclear disaster. So, great. Is this anti-fascism? This is anti-imperialism, folks. The denazification of Ukraine can only succeed with the overwhelming power of the world's largest nuclear power plant blanketing all of Europe in irradiation. I will not pronounce it correctly, and I'm not going to try. So let's have a talk real quick. Let me get a map up on this, just so we can see where it is, and then we'll talk about what it would mean for this plant to explode. Okay? Map. Give me a map. Yeah, there can't be any Nazis if everyone on Earth dies, all right? Russia's just way ahead of you guys. Way ahead of you guys. Here we go. So this is, this is from the 3rd of March. I want to see if I can't find a... Oh, I can just use Live UA Map, of course. LiveUAMap.com, my favorite website. Yeah, Putin is just a Posadist, of course. Right here, we've got, we got this, we got a Live UA Map, and we have that right over the river, right around here, no? Yes. Zaporizhzhia, yes! Right here. We found it, folks. Makes sense that it would be on the water, considering the enormous amount of heat dissipation, you know, that a nuclear power plant requires. So, Russia controls this area. It strategically would make sense for them to occupy this territory and fire into Ukrainian territory from here, given its location. Can't really be stormed from the other side on account of the river. Very anti-imperialistly, you know, trading shots across a nuclear power plant. So let's talk real quick, okay? I'm not exactly an expert on nuclear power plants. I know this is going to be shocking. So let me see if I can't simplify this. You know, hey, any physics nerds in chat, you people are going to be very mad. Very mad. Okay, are you ready for it? Now, here's how it works, okay? We are capable of mining and refining something known as spicy rock, all right? Now, spicy rock has a very unique property in that it generates an ungodly amount of energy when it's put in certain conditions, which allow the spicy levels to reflect in on itself. Different levels of spiciness allow for different kinds of energy production. For example, the spiciest rocks are used in nuclear bombs because they go so spicy, so quick, don't they? But nuclear power plants don't use those. See, a meltdown at a nuclear power plant, it doesn't produce an explosion, which is a common misconception. What it does do is it allows the spicy fuel rods that they use to get spicier than their containment cells are capable of holding. Essentially, they produce too much energy for their containment cells to not melt, and then they melt. And when they melt, they compromise the structural integrity of the nuclear power plant. And if the structural integrity of the nuclear power plant is compromised, you can have breaches. Now, that is very, very bad. Why is that bad? Well, spicy rocks emit something known as air death, which kills everyone around it very quickly, and sometimes not very quickly, which sometimes is actually worse than the quickly. To dispense with the jokes, if there is a meltdown or another kind of breach at a nuclear power plant, like, say, being struck with explosives from a distance, hypothetically, like they can breach from a meltdown. They can also breach from munitions. What happens then is the spicy rocks are exposed, and the stuff that the spicy rocks have touched with air death are also exposed. This is what happened in Chernobyl. Basically, you have a meltdown which causes extremely irradiated material to distribute in the area. That's why the engineers at Chernobyl sacrificed their lives to shut down the reactor and prevent further meltdown bad air spice from emitting. Because the more irradiated material exposes itself and releases further, the more that shit gets blown around. See, radiation itself isn't really the risk. The risk is that little motes of dust and sand and dirt and debris get irradiated. They essentially become infused with death air, and then the wind kicks them up. You can actually see, hold on, Chernobyl radiation fallout map. You can see what this does. In worst case scenarios, a major plant meltdown is capable of distributing nuclear material across very large areas. Like this. This was after the shutdown. After averting a full meltdown. See, the actual spicy rocks never leave the ground zero spot, but dust and what have you get irradiated, and the wind kicks them everywhere. Now, Chernobyl is notable in that it's not as big as this one. The Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant is larger and full of spice. Now, there is some good news. The good news here is that modern nuclear power plants are insanely fortified. I really cannot overstate how fortified these things are. Like, these things are fortified to withstand direct missile strikes and bombing runs. They are, like, you can't just fire a gun and blow one up. You can't fire a tank and just blow one up. You can't, you need real shit. I mean, you need, like, bunker buster bombs. You need, you could crash a plane into them. You could 9/11 them. I mean, they're meant to be sturdy. But is that a risk you really want to take? International military standards generally discourage people from turning nuclear power plants into live combat zones. In spite of this, not only did Russia, conquer the Chernobyl area and fight there, they're also occupying and firing from the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant, in addition to threatening to blow it up. If they blew up this power plant, this would not be a Ukraine problem. This would be tantamount to a nuclear attack on the rest of Europe. If this happened, if a deliberate destruction of this nuclear power plant was done, hundreds of millions of people would be affected. Many, many people, not just in Ukraine, would die, and I'm pretty sure the West would interpret this as a nuclear attack. Like, I'm pretty sure NATO would just respond by annihilating Russia. Like legitimately. Like, that's not a joke. Like, literally. This cloud of radiation would be nothing compared to the potential fallout from that plant being destroyed. I mean, there are a million factors that could affect this, but this would effectively be a deliberate nuclear attack. It would provoke NATO intervention. So that's cool. Now, obviously, all of this is fully necessary in Russia's pursuit to defend itself against NATO's imperialist efforts to politely ask neighboring countries if they would like to be a part of NATO. There was really no other way. Anti-imperialism through preventative nuclear hellfire is the only kind of anti-imperialism capable of standing up to a Western intervention. You know, yeah. It's really bad, guys. Do you think this is just an empty dick-waving threat, or do you think they'd really do it? I think that they're not going to do it. I think that the Russian military, and their brass especially, have basically no, like, limits on what they can do or say. That's why they get called orcs, right? Like, their soldiers rape whoever they want, they plunder whatever they want, they do or say whatever they want. Thankfully, doing whatever they want very rarely overlaps with effective military tactics, you know? So their free spirit towards military, rule following often leads to them getting fucking murked by HIMARS and Bayraktars and Javelins and etc., etc. We've all seen the war footage. We all know that Russia is getting their shit kicked in 10 times as hard as anyone predicted before the war began. But if they actually do it, guys, that would be pretty bad. I don't think there's going to be an accidental breach of this power plant, because I don't think either side is using munitions capable of accidentally breaching that power plant. Even if military, artillery or missiles hit it or whatever, I don't think that's enough to breach its shielding. It is so well armored. So that's good. They would have to do it, deliberately. Remember that in the Chernobyl exclusion zone, the reason we saw upticks in the radiation levels there was because those idiot Russian soldiers were being sent to their deaths in the irradiated area. The kick up to the radiation was being produced not by new leaks, but rather by the irradiated dust being dug up by the soldiers ordered to go there, which is really depressing, really, really bad. It's possible that firing, it's possible that incidental damage could cause, a problem with the foundation of the Zapor nuclear power plant. That is possible. But I would lean towards optimism on this one. Accidental disruptions, I do not think are going to cause the plant to go, to have a leak. I think it would have to be deliberate. I will admit, though, that storing large amounts of highly explosive ammunition inside the Zapor power plant would exacerbate the likelihood of accidental conflict destroying the reactor. There are limits to the invulnerability of this thing. Russian forces are seeking to stash ammunition and military equipment in Europe's largest nuclear power plant because they fear their inventory will be targeted and destroyed by Russian forces. It's incredible. This is actually the only thing more morally bad than deliberately storing your munitions in, like, orphanages or whatever. It's incredible. Like, how do they do it, man? How do they top those numbers? What is worse than storing your munitions around orphans? What if we stored it in a nuclear power plant so any accident could end the world? Whoa, that's a good idea, Vlad, Sergey. That's a good one. Yeah, given the fact that the plant was built by the Soviet Union, maybe I shouldn't be talking up their shielding that well. This wasn't built that long after the Chernobyl plant. Modern nuclear power plants are incredibly well armored. Maybe I shouldn't talk this one up too much. Russian military forces are demanding the administration of the nuclear power plant open engine rooms at the first, second, and third power units so they can store their military arsenal here. Russian occupiers are violating all the standards and requirements concerning nuclear and radiation security at the nuclear power plant. They're planning to store armaments and explosives right inside the engine rooms of the largest nuclear power plant in Europe. Is this a threat or incompetence? Unfortunately, there's no real difference between the two when it comes to Russia. This is from 7 hours ago. Using it as an army base. Petro Kotin told the BBC the threat to the plant was great, that it so far remains safe. Over the weekend, Ukraine accused Russian forces of attacking the Soviet-era site, saying 2 workers were taken to the hospital with shrapnel injuries and that 3 radiation sensors had been damaged. Okay, really quickly, does anybody know what the payload is inside of this? Like, how many? What's the term for it? What's the nuclear yield? How much material is it? 300,000 gigajoules. There's a video on this.
In the early morning hours of March 4th, 2022...
Do you mind watching a video? They have more subs than me, so I don't feel bad.
Russian forces invading Ukraine initiated what is now...
This was right at the beginning of the invasion.
...considered the world's first military attack on a nuclear power plant. During the fighting, a shell hit the plant's first production unit, which was under maintenance at the time. A fire broke out. By Friday morning, the fighting at Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant, Europe's largest, had stopped. Fires were apparently under control, there were no radiation leaks, and no fatalities. The event, however, created a flurry of news stories and social media posts that were laden with fear that surpassed even the concerns over an occupied Chernobyl, which fell to Russian forces only a few days before.
Haven't we seen this?
One viral tweet from Dmytro Kuleba, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Ukraine, claimed that this could have quickly led to a disaster 10 times worse than Chernobyl. But could it? Are Ukraine's nuclear power plants, and nuclear power plants in general, just one errant bullet or missile away from a corium-dripping catastrophe?
Let's find out.
How dangerous is a nuclear power plant under siege?
Okay. Oh, it's fine.
This video is purely for educational purposes. There is no political point to make in its content, nor are there any insights on the ongoing conflict. I am not a nuclear expert. My only goal is to educate you on the designs and safeguards in nuclear power plants, as this will inform your acceptance of nuclear power generally, which I believe we need. I also see a great need to put accurate information about nuclear power into the information ecosystem. From personal conversations with experts and evolving, the accuracy of this video could change at any moment, and is, without question, a bad idea. Attacking any complex multi-billion-dollar facility that a country relies on is a bad idea.
That's true.
But it seems that the public believes nuclear power plants are inherently different, more dangerous, that they are some fuse just waiting to be lit, a vat of gasoline awaiting a match. They are not. The first thing to understand about nuclear power plants is that they are extremely resilient. Not because nuclear power is always dangerous, but because to safely make power from nuclear reactions in the first place, you need a shocking amount of concrete and steel. This is how any nuclear reactor works. Fuel rods are placed in a particular orientation such that the radioactivity...
These are the spicy rocks we discussed earlier, chat. Oh, if you ever wondered, by the way, what those gigantic, like, towers are that are classic to the nuclear power plant thing, it's just steam. Interestingly, not only is it steam, this is like totally safe. Like, if you could be up there, it would be like a warm steam bath. I mean, it'd probably be way too hot for you. But like, that's it. Yeah, they're just cooling towers. They just release steam and cool stuff. And yeah. You could steam lobsters up there. It would be as safe as any water from your tap. Probably? Maybe. Don't try.
The end goal of all this nuclear geometry is to use the heat generated by the nuclear reactions to turn water into steam, and use that steam to turn turbines for electricity. Simple in theory, difficult to execute in practice, and it's this difficulty that in turn makes nuclear power plants extraordinarily resilient and difficult to turn into disasters. It is the nature of high-energy particles to pass through stuff. They are small, moving incredibly fast, and can sometimes ignore fields and forces. The degree to which a particle passes through stuff depends on what kind of particle it is. Alpha radiation, a charged helium nucleus, is relatively big and interacts with a...
This might be a bit beyond what we're... No, we'll watch the whole thing. I'm just trying to see on the plant specifically, but okay. I want him to talk about this specific plant.
Electric fields. It's the most easily stopped. Beta radiation, or high-speed electrons and/or positrons, still interact electrically, but are much smaller, and so they pass further. Gamma radiation is high-energy photons moving at the speed of light, and it can pass through even a large amount of lead. Finally, neutron radiation, fast-moving and electrically neutral, passes through just about everything except for a lot of concrete. Seeing as the goal of every nuclear reactor is to generate a lot of neutrons to kick off and sustain nuclear reactions for heat, you'd expect these devices to have a lot of concrete shielding, and they do, an astonishing amount. A modern nuclear reactor isn't a creaky old powder keg always on the edge of combustion. No, it's...
Yeah, see, this is more of a technical thing. I want to know about the actual threat to... Okay, I'm sorry, I'll stop complaining. I want to get through it.
A monolith of lead-infused concrete, rebar, and steel. Multiple levels of shielding and protection, hundreds of feet tall, many feet thick, reinforced everything, redundant everywhere. This is what a practically indestructible thing really looks like. Reactors, again by their very nature, are designed to withstand tornadoes, missiles, and plane crashes at nearly supersonic speeds. Even the casks we store and transport nuclear waste in are engineered like this. You can crash a runaway train into one, and literally nothing happens. It is not an exaggeration to say that attacking a nuclear reactor with anything less than directed, substantial, and specialized ordnance will not significantly damage a nuclear reactor. And even if it did, reactors today can shut themselves down even if they feel the vibrations from a nearby explosion before they even endure one. And at ZNPP, efficient shutdowns of reactors happened. According to Rafael Mariano Grossi, Director General...
Okay, one thing that I'm curious... First of all, this is a Soviet-era nuclear power plant. Does it have those protections? The second thing that I'm interested in, even if it shuts itself down, there's still irradiated material in the plant that might be split open, right? If everything spills, you know, even if they shut down... They upgraded it? Okay, so they upgraded it with that. All right, okay. That's nice. But even if it shuts down, like, there's still irradiated material that can be spilled out.
Of the International Atomic Energy Agency, before the attack, the plant's first reactor was already shut down for maintenance. The second and third reactors were shut down immediately during Russian assault, and the reactors 4 through 6 remained in low power mode. The integrity of the reactors
You're not using a radiator properly? I don't care.
The reactors, quote, are being protected by robust containment structures, U.S. Energy Secretary Jennifer Granholm said in a statement. This is all entirely unsurprising once you actually understand how these facilities are designed and how they operate. It is very unlikely that any unintentional and underpowered military attack would break a nuclear reactor.
Unless...
If it did, even then, the reactor stops and cools down. But here is the actual worry. The ZNPP facility has 6 reactors and a total capacity of 5.7 gigawatts, enough to power more than 4 million homes. If all those reactors had to shut down for absolute safety, that's a lot of uranium that still has to cool all the way down. There is a sequence of events here where by accident or by design, Russian invasion forces damage, disable, or otherwise destroy infrastructure that is used to cool down fuel, the backup diesel generators on site, for example. However, as someone like Lake Barrett, a former US NRC official who worked on the cleanup of the 3 Mile Island plant, points out, quote, multiple backup cooling systems are available, and operators have been trained to be able to withstand plausible situations that could occur under any abnormal situation. If there is no significant military damage to their multiple redundant safety systems, the
Okay, but well, that's obviously what we're concerned about, because Russia's apparently, like, loading explosives inside the engine room of the power plant. So we are talking about a pretty extensive breach of protocol when it comes to this particular situation. No, I know, because the goal of this video is to get people to be less afraid of nuclear power. And to be fair, nuclear power is really, really safe. Maybe just not when you're being invaded by Russia. If orcs are attacking, maybe that is less safe.
reactor should remain in a safe, stable state. Again, this is all unsurprising and even reassuring when you know how a nuclear power plant actually works. If the worst did happen, if a series of events led to a damaged reactor core and a loss of cooling, reactor cores would heat up to the point of melting. A meltdown is just this: nuclear material heating itself up until its material structure changes phase. But unlike what followed the meltdown of Chernobyl's reactor unit 4, the 6 reactors at Zaporizhzhia are pressurized water reactors that have containment structures that Chernobyl did not have, designed to stop the release of radiation into the environment. And also, unlike the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant, which melted down from a loss of cooling capabilities, Europe's largest nuclear reactors have separated water and steam circuits, making the loss of cooling water less likely, and they have emergency core cooling systems and multiple injection systems to prevent meltdown. And even then, in the worst case of worst cases, if all of these things fail, a meltdown would likely still be entirely contained, by a containment structure literally hundreds of feet tall and many feet thick. Thankfully, there have been no fatalities at Zaporizhzhia. The fires from the fighting were contained almost immediately. There was no damage to any reactors, and though the plant itself is under Russian occupation, Ukrainian staff are still running the operations. The same situation as Chernobyl under siege. Despite what goes viral, it is physically impossible for ZNPP to become, quote, 10 times Chernobyl, based on the design of the plant itself and the details that we know right now. I am phrasing this all so strongly because I know a situation like the siege of ZNPP is going to stick in your mind. I know it will be used by the opponents of nuclear.
I don't know if I agree with this. He is coming in here with a political bias, and it's promoting the safety of nuclear power plants. The issue is a deliberate attempt to blow up a nuclear power plant because like a Russian general would. You are too? Yeah, but keep in mind, this is not something you can design around. Just keep that in mind. I'm not doubting this guy's knowledge. It's just all of this is contextual on, like, so it's really a matter of, like, what changes have been made, and putting bombs in the plant is a noteworthy change, right? Yeah. Well, the framing here, so I like this guy. I like what he's saying here. Nuclear power plants are very safe. It's just, they literally designed around this, though. You cannot design around a planned demolition effort from a military. There is literally nothing on Earth capable of preventing the destruction of a plant given sufficient explosives and time. It's not possible. Yes, there is. No, there isn't. Then what was the point of the video? Oh God, do we have to, oh no. Do we have to get mad at chat? Hopefully we can prevent getting mad at chat. So you can make plants safe with regards to reasonable threats to the stability and the integrity of a nuclear power plant. However, if you can build something, you can take it apart. So the threat to blow up the plant is an actionable one. A military, even a small one, given enough time, is capable of causing a critical breach at any nuclear power plant. There is no way around that. If you guys think that there's a way to build a structure to make it literally impervious to destruction, why don't we build, like, castles in the modern era? Why isn't the Pentagon or the White House built like that? Like, that's not a real thing. There is no material, concrete, steel, that cannot be destroyed with explosives. You can't plan around that. You can plan around reasonable threats of adjacent conflict during wartime, which I did say had a very low likelihood of producing any kind of meltdown situation. An active effort to destroy the plant, however, you simply cannot prevent that from happening. Make it out of vibranium, true. To be fair, the vid was released in March. That doesn't matter. That's not relevant. Isn't what he's saying about incidental damage to the reactor from combat in the area? Yes, not a deliberate attempt to destroy it. Because you can't plan around that. Yes, you can, bud. Hello, Venus420. I disagree. Is there really a movement to demonize nuclear power? Oh yeah, big one, huge one. And I disagree with it. I'm pro-nuclear power, baby. Love nuclear power. You hear that shit? Power 4 million Ukrainian homes at one plant? That doesn't require the entire mining out of mountains for coal or like destruction of the planet for oil? Great. Yeah. Awesome. Amazing. Is there even a method to make something indestructible? Nope. Vaush, it would cost millions to make a total meltdown. That's fine. War costs billions, like daily. You'd have to blow up literally everything, hundreds of feet of concrete and all the multiple cooling systems. No. And first of all, that wouldn't be difficult to do with sustained effort. But again, no. If you were starting from the inside, you could do it with a few $1,000s worth of equipment. You can see all of the fortifications here. They're already in the plant. 3-foot thick reinforced concrete metal reinforcement. You can blow that up. 2.5-inch diameter steel rod spaced 1 foot apart. You could destroy those if you wanted to. Containment vessel, 1.5-inch steel cylinder. Blow-upable. Very blow-upable. Did you know there are even machines that can cut through 1.5 inches of steel? You can find them in any workshop in the world. Guys, everything can be destroyed. Literally, like everything. If they wanted to, they control the plant. They could just cause a meltdown by disabling safety features and turning everything up to 11. Of course, they would need engineers to do that, and the engineers at the plant are Ukrainian, and I doubt they would do that for funsies, but you could do that. Anyway, I guess I'm just not sure where this is coming from. I don't want to argue with you guys on this. Literally anything can be destroyed. I didn't think that would be a controversial statement. You can make things as safe as possible, but no matter how safe something is, a military can destroy it. You know, that's always a possibility. That's it. That's all. I'm only talking about the fact that a Russian general literally threatened to bomb the plant. There will be either Russian land or a scorched desert. I interpreted scorched desert as we successfully breached the plant and caused a nuclear meltdown. I don't know why you would threaten to bomb a nuclear power plant without wanting to do that. I mean, I don't know why you would want to do that anyway, but if you were threatening to bomb a nuclear power plant, I assume it's because you would want to cause a breach. They might be too incompetent to meaningfully blow it up. Pray. Let us pray. Everyone pray. We worrying about accidental catastrophe, though? No. The likelihood of an accidental breach, in my opinion, is very, very low outside of some insane set of circumstances. However, it's important to know the Russians are in the plant, not out of the plant, and plants are meant to withstand damage from the outside going in and from meltdowns going out, but not from soldiers going in and blowing things up outward. That's a different type of thing. So let's just hope we all end up okay. You know, let's not belabor the point here. At least we're sending another $1 billion. True. God bless. People are so mad about that, sending another $1 billion to Ukraine. Send them $1 trillion. I don't care, whatever. They're making better use of it than we do. What do we spend our money on? Our own military-industrial complex, which isn't even doing anything right now? At least when we send money over to them, you know, the equipment that they get from it, they actually use. No, my goal isn't to fearmonger here. However, I do think we should take the threat of a Russian general to blow up a nuclear power plant. I think that should be taken seriously. Nuclear power plants are very, very safe. Is nuclear power better than green power, or what? The theoretical full wind, solar, and hydroelectric, like, power grid is better than using nuclear power. But nuclear power at the moment is so powerful and efficient that it's worth worth promoting, you know, at the moment. Nuclear power is green? Nah, really. It's much greener than coal or oil, yeah. You still produce nuclear waste, which is a hassle to dispose of, and you're still using a non-renewable resource. You know, we only have so much radioactive material that's acceptable for nuclear power plants. Whereas, of course, wind and solar are both powered directly and indirectly by the sun, which means that they're effectively infinite in their, you know, use. Would I ever feel safe living near a nuclear power plant? Yes. Do not buy into anti-nuclear power plant fearmongering. Don't. The ambient radiation you're exposed to for living near a nuclear power plant is unimaginably lower than being near a banana, which emits radiation. Lower than background radiation. I mean, radiation's all around us all the time. You can see certain wavelengths of it. Yeah, it's not something to worry about, I don't think. You get more radiation, far more radiation, from taking a flight, because there's less atmosphere to block out the sun's radiation further up. How do I see radiation? Light is electromagnetic radiation. Yeah, sunburns are because of UV radiation. When we talk about, like, radioactive materials, we're actually talking about a limited spectrum of a limited range. To be fair, nuclear radiation is separate from electromagnetic radiation. Yeah, but I only said radiation, didn't I? Also, there are types of electromagnetic radiation that can do the same things to your body as nuclear radiation. So, you know, whatever. Radiation, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. It's all good. All good. Don't worry about it. All good. It's like having a sunburn on your organs, yeah. I think gamma radiation is still photons, right? Complicated. It's complicated. Listen, folks. God created the molecule And some of these molecules, to spite his creation, break off, and you just get shit bouncing everywhere. And a lot of that shit's totally fine, and every once in a while, some types of it will give you cancer. Why? Nobody knows. It's a God thing. Don't worry about it. So dangerous radiation is Lucifer? I think we can reasonably intuit from available information that all forms of electromagnetic and nuclear radiation are in fact Satan. This is true. It's true. It is true.